Okay, so I'm your moderator tonight. I drew the short straw. Thank you. This will be my last and final act before I leave the town.
This is the first time the moderators have to wear a gun.
So anyway, what we're going to do this evening is we're going to meet two candidates for the Board of Selectmen. There's a third candidate on the ballot. The course of battle here, so to speak, is that each of these two candidates will introduce themselves, and then we'll go right into the question and answer period. This is going to be a little bit like Jeopardy. I'm going to ask you not to make any statements or direct a question at a single candidate. If you would, please put your in the form of a question that can be answered by both candidates. When we've reached the end of the night and you've exhausted your questions, we'll ask each of the candidates to make a closing statement, and that'll be it. Okay? Any questions before we get started? Fantastic. Okay. So we have two candidates here. I'm not sure how to spell or pronounce either one of their names. They're new to me, and I'm sure they're both new to you. We have, of course, Helene Kirk and Jack Meany. So going alphabetically, I'm going to ask Helene to start, and then Mr. Meany.
Can we try without the microphone first?
I'll ask you to speak to the
Tell me
cable.
if you can hear me, and if not...
Helene, the microphone. We're going to record this and put this on YouTube.
Oh. Okay. Do you have to press anything?
No, there should be a little green light on it.
Yeah, there is. Hi, for those that don't know me, my name is Helene Kirk. I'm a longtime resident of Weare. I'd like to tell you a little bit first about why I decided to run, and then I'll give you some background on my experience. The job of the Board of Selectmen is to run the prudential affairs of the town. To me, that means that we serve the people in the town. That's our job, and that means all the people, ones we agree with and ones we don't agree with. One of the ways for us to be able to communicate with each other is to make sure that we are as transparent as we can possibly be. That means for the selectmen that whatever is going on at their board meeting needs to be available to the public. Let's just wait a minute for John to take a seat.
Thank you.
Do you want John to go first after that?
You've already started.
Okay. You just hit send. Okay. And so to me, the transparency means that all the citizens in the town have the same kind of information that the board has. And that the board has all the information that they need to do a good job in making decisions, enough prior to their meeting so that they're well prepared. Transparency goes back and forth, back and forth. It means that the townspeople tell the board what they're thinking, even if the board might, in the end, think differently. But it's important that they express what their thoughts and their needs are. That transparency brings me to my next point, which is raises. And I went in front of the board and talked about this prior, but in some cases, we have raises that are tucked into the budget, And in other cases, we have raises that have to stand alone in warrant articles. Now, there's nothing illegal about that. But I do believe that if we're going to be a coherent town, we treat all people, all employees, with the same fairness. And I think that is blatantly unfair. I think that the boards need to establish how that's going to be done. Either do it all one way or all another way. Further, I find it challenging that some employees have to go and have to ask us through a warrant article to get a 3% raise, and others get up to a 20% raise. And the difference is the lower paid employees get the 3%, and the higher paid employees get the 10, 15, 20%. I think it's disproportionate, and I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's the best way to run a good government. I also would like to be at the table when we're hiring our new police chief and when we're hiring the building inspector. There are two important positions. I'd like when we interview with the police chief, I'd like that police chief to know the heartbeat of our town. The things that are important in the back roads, on the main roads. I'd like him to be, or her, to be an integral part of our town. And the building inspector, the same. It's someone whose face many of us see, and I'd like to be at the table when those positions are being filled. I think one of the most important things that we have to face now, and please don't get me wrong, the town is running okay. We're not in any kind of crisis now. I just think that I can offer things to make it run better. I think we need to be concerned about our infrastructure. If we don't deal with it now, it's just going to get worse and harder to deal with at a later time. And I suppose most of you, if not all of you here, are here for the long haul. So, pay the piper less now or more later. I'd like to tell you a little bit about my background for those of you who don't know. I was a selectman from 2004 to 2009. I believe I was successful. At that time, there was some concern about the attitude of the selectmen. I think we turned that right around. I was involved with many committees and organizations and have continued to be involved with many organizations in town. I was, for 6 years, a supervisor of the checklist. I know enough about what government can and should do for the people, and I hope that you will see the benefit in supporting me for your next selectman.
Thank you, Colleen. We'll start with Mr. Meany, and then, I'm sorry, it's Yeskovich, correct? Thank you, sir. All right, so that was about 5.5 minutes. So I'll let the other two candidates go that long, and throw the gong when I hit that 5.5 minute mark, okay?
Good evening. For those who don't know me, I'm Jack Meany. I'm one of your present selectmen at this time. I'm running for re-election. I'd like to continue the work that I've started in my first term. One of the biggest things I want to be involved with, and through the experience that I've had most of my adult life, is for vetting the new police chief. It's going to be tough to fill the shoes that Chief Kelly is leaving, but I want to make sure that we get somebody that can fill those shoes and carry this town forward, especially with the police department and the strides that we've made. I've lived in this town off and on over the past, probably 30, 40 years. I first came over here in 1977 when the state sent me over here when I was a state trooper, and patrolled this area until about 85, 86. Took a stint in Concord at the general headquarters, and then came back for a while and moved into town, and lived here for about 7 years, and then got transferred again, and I moved up towards the Bradford area. During that time, while I was up there, I retired and was involved with the town there. I was on the budget committee, which is an elected position, for 10 years, and then continued on and went to the Board of Selectmen for a term. Shortly thereafter, I met my lovely wife, and we got married, and I moved back to Weare, which was probably one of the best moves I've made in both fronts. I have very concerned with making this town, make sure it keeps progressing forward, that we don't stay stagnant, and I want to make sure that we have a good police department, so that we have a safe town, safe schools, and I have 2 children in the schools, 2 stepchildren, and I want to see them also be safe and their future here. And they've been Weare residents since they've been born. So, I also have a lot of experience as far as being involved with public works. I'm a Master Road Scholar, which is put forth through UNH, the T-Square program. I've gone to those classes and earned my degree all the way up through, and continue to go into those classes. And I think that's a benefit, as being on the board, that we can help the Public Works Department, the director and his men, make sure that they get the best advice and the best technology that they can, and they also go to these schools. And I want to make sure that we continue to have the quality people that we have in this town to take care of our infrastructure, the highway and the transfer station. I've also, in my career, been involved in the fire service, and I've been an investigator and an instructor for the arson school. And I was also an investigator with the fire department after I retired for arson investigation. So I'm also aware of what the trials and tribulations are of the fire service. And I'd like to make sure that we continue to take care of our employees and make sure that they're brought up to the standard where a lot of other towns, some of them even smaller than ours, are getting better pay, and we get our people to get to the same pay and keep the quality people. I don't want this to be a training town where they come in for short money, find a job someplace else, and leave us, and we start at ground zero and start all the way up. Yes, sometimes it adds more to your tax rate, but in the long run, what value can you put on a quality employee? You can't. And like I said, I'd like to continue this work. I'd like to make sure that I sit on the board when we go to vet a new police chief. We're in the process of searching for one now. We're getting feedback now from the company that we've hired to do that. And I'd also want to sit on the board when they also hire a new building inspector. I think that's a very important position, especially with all the construction and the new houses or additions that are going on now, to make sure that they're up to code. And I'd appreciate your vote on the 12th.
Thanks. Mr. Yeskovich. Thanks.
I believe I can make a positive impact on holding the line on expenses for this town. I'd like to read a letter that a Bristol resident wrote to the Laconia Daily Sun, which is a similar situation to what we face in this town and other towns around the state. This town does not have a revenue problem. This town has a spending problem. When it comes to Bristol's taxes, many in our town want the government to care for them cradle to grave like they do in Massachusetts and other overtaxed nanny states. Many others enjoy living by New Hampshire's motto, live free or die. We should embrace the motto to keep our freedom from overpriced and overpowering government. If you love freedom, it is worth fighting for, and if you enjoy smaller government, then this vote is important for you. Several in the Select Board in Bristol proposed a $602,000 or 13% increase over last year's budget, total general fund operations line. Found 2/3 the way into the budget. At town meeting last year, they saved $370,000 and no one lost their job. All got raises, town roads were plowed, heat and lights stayed on, and still there was $102,000 they could have spent. They want the $370,000 back plus another $232,000. The U.S. rate of inflation is currently 1.9%, and they want a 13% increase in inflation, which is more than 6 times the national average. This increase is unreasonable and unsustainable, and more stuff on that. I believe our taxes will go up. Bristol will become more and more like a Massachusetts town, holding your hand from cradle to grave, which is what they're trying to do here. And they will build a utopia town. Not if we can help it. I believe I can make a positive impact on holding the line on town expenditures.
Okay, so you've heard each of the candidates with their, sorry, Dick, with their opening remarks. We'll start and open the floor to questions. If you would, please come to the microphone. Again, I'm going to remind folks that just arrived, we are playing Jeopardy tonight. Put your statement in the form of a question that all 3 candidates can answer, okay? Anybody have any questions? If you would, please just state your name and where you're from.
Good evening and good luck. John Van, Walker Hill Road. I'd like to hear all 3 of your opinions on the bond that is we're going to be voting on this upcoming week for roads.
Okay, I think for order, we'll just start with Mr. Yeskovich and work our way down to Mr. Mealy.
I don't need that.
Yeah, you want you.
Okay, the question was about the road bond. There is little doubt that road maintenance is an important issue in this town. I've looked at it, and I'm not so sure that we need a road bond to cover this project. I believe that the current road repair crew can and has been doing an effective job based on the weather and freezing conditions that we live with here. This is not unusual to this town. It happens throughout New Hampshire.
I support this bond. I think that we need the money in order to get the roads where they need to be. Now, I recognize that not every single person who lives in Weare uses all the roads, but I would say, I dare say that 93% or so of us do. And if we doing the roads the way we've done in the past, yes, we get a little bit done, but not enough done. And I think that the highway director spoke well and explained why we needed the bond. I think it's the way to go.
I'm all for the bond. And in my experience in being involved in different highway projects in my own business that I have, and then also going to the same school that Director Knapp's gone to, the roads are our biggest investment in this town, as in any town. There's a biggest asset that we have to take care of and maintain. In places, they're crumbling down around our ears because we're just doing stopgap type repairs. It's like having your fingers in the dike in a hole and the rest of it's crumbling around with you. And that's what it boils down to. There's roads in this town that are falling apart. We've had them come into the Board of Selectmen. Bogue Road, for one, is completely falling apart. They bring in chunks into the Selectmen's meeting of the road. I've been up there personally and driven on some of these roads, and there's one gentleman that put on the seminar said you can do the kamikaze treatment. You go with an open cup of coffee and hold it and drive down the road, and if you don't end up spilling it all over you, hot coffee all over you, then the road isn't too bad. But most of the roads here aren't going to handle it. Not that all of them have to be stripped down and repaved, but some of them could use crack seal rather, and they could use chip seals, and some of them could be ground and done. And I think if we don't turn around and take care of the roads that are halfway decent and really pay attention to the ones that are falling apart and get those done, we're going to go back to mostly dirt roads, because that's what's going to happen. They're going to crumble apart. Part of this is just to take care of the paved roads. There's another road maintenance budget that will take care of some of the dirt roads. But this is something that we need to do for our infrastructure if we keep going.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Rhonda Gregg, 49 Quaker Street. Helene, you addressed the issue of raises, and you said that it was fair the way they were doing it. You know, it was legal. And you, sir, said that we need to be fair paying our persons that work in our offices because we want to keep good people. However, my question is, these people that are getting these large raises are people who are close to retirement. And I know from my own experience in another field that when you do that, you're padding the retirement system for those people in those last 5 years. So I would like for, Helene explained herself, but I would like for the two gentlemen to explain why we have this disparity in raises in our town. Thank you.
We'll start on one end and work our way down.
The reason for the disparity of raises in this town is because nobody has addressed it before.
Okay, I guess I have to respond. I think, again, I mentioned before, it wasn't illegal what was done. I just think it is not in the best interest of the town to do it this way. And the other thing is, you know, you're talking different kinds of money, aren't you? If you're talking about people on the low end of the pay scale, they get 40 cents an hour more, maybe less. If you're talking at the upper end of the pay scale and you've put it into the budget, you're talking $10,000, $15,000, $18,000 more. I don't think it's right, that's all.
I don't understand where the disparity comes as far as somebody retiring. There's nobody that's gotten a fat salary I know here that's retiring from here, padding any type of retirement. But keep our salaries, we've done increases, which is going to be on the ballot, a 3% raise for all the town employees. Part of that is that it was an option of 2, 2.5, or 3. The board went with the 3% for the fact that there's a collective bargaining agreement with certain employees that they're getting a 3% raise this year. And then to do that, we went for the non-union personnel to keep it all on the same, and not to penalize non-union employees, by giving them less than the same amount that the union employees are getting. And that's only fair. As far as any big raises, there's been raises given to certain key administrators to keep them in line with what's other towns in positions that they hold. Some of them have less of a population than we do, and they're earning more money. There's been previous administrators in this town, or people of administrative capability, that got more money than some of the people we had working currently, some of the predecessors. So we brought them in line, and that's only fair. We're not padding anything. We're not going out and doing anything that's improper or illegal. We're not trying to pad somebody's retirement, so when they go down the road in 5 years, you know, that's not what's being put forth. There's no retirements in the offing for anybody. Chief Kelly said he's leaving, and he is, but that's not under retirement issue. He's just resigning. He's had his contract's just about up, but he's leaving early. But nobody else is. There's no other administrators that are leaving at this time with a fat raise, or that we've given any fat raises here in the back. But when you turn around and look at adjoining towns, just for employees, up until still recently, you can be a truck driver and drive a truck in an adjoining town, start out at $18 and change an hour. We were paying $16, and our town's got more people and more roads to cover, and actually we've got some better equipment, and we're not paying the people equally. Or they can go to another adjoining town and start at better than $19 or $20 an hour. Do we want to lose these people? I'm not saying we got to give them the moon, but I'm saying we should pay them a fair salary. The same with our office employees. You can go to other towns and look at some of the office employees, and they're getting more money. Do we want to lose them? No, we've got good quality people. We want to keep them, and I think they deserve an equal raise. Just to put it in perspective, Social Security gave this year a 2.8% increase. So, I mean, we're not far off. We're not way out of the ballpark. We're not giving anybody fat raises or showing anybody any favoritism.
Can I add anything? Or would you rather not?
Let's save it for your final remarks, your closing remarks. Any other questions?
They actually had statements with him, so I'll try to boil it down. Chris Haig, Abijah Bridge Road. When I heard about transparency tonight, I thought of communication. And there was a time in the early 90s when there were department head meetings where there was communication about current issues in the town, and one town administrator actually put together a forum that included the department heads and other concerned people in the town to kind of look at a long-term strategy. And I would appreciate comments about something like that happening again.
If there was such a program in place, it can be put in place again. It would be beneficial to look at exactly how that transpired and how it was done. If anybody has any information regarding that, it would be helpful for the Board of Selectmen to look at it.
I believe when I was on the Board of Selectmen back in 2004 to 2009, there were meetings like that. There were also staff meetings. I just assume that those have continued, and you're suggesting they have not. I think Jack can speak better to that than I can.
I agree with having an open forum, but there are staff meetings within the department. You know, the town administrator has meetings with different people, and they have their loss committee meetings. They discuss certain things in the town as far as any loss prevention, whether it be due to injuries or insurance issues like that. But I think that if have an open forum where we have other citizens come in, I don't have a problem with that, and I don't think that that's a bad idea. It hasn't been since I've been here, but I think that would be a very good idea.
Rather than have me come up and suggest somebody come up, if you want to form a line with your questions. Next, please.
Frank Campana, Quaker Street. I appreciate you all, three of you, taking on the burden, I'll use that word, of selectmen, because sometimes it can be burdensome. If you would allow me, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to set up my question. And my question is going to revolve around, which has already been mentioned, transparency, pay raises. On the warrant this year, there are 3 articles dealing with pay raises that the voters have a say in because they are separate articles on the warrant. And I'm not afraid to say the department, which is the fire department, and the Board of Fire Wards, they seem to work in a Teflon house. And my issue with that is that the Board of Fire Wards, they approved a $1 an hour raise sometime in July for, I think, hourly workers. They proposed a contract for the fire chief, which did not materialize. And in lieu of that, they gave did I say police chief? They gave the fire chief a $10,000 raise. I did, as a taxpayer, all right, talk about transparency, I did not have the opportunity to say yay or nay to that, like 3 other pay raises that are on the article, on the warrant. There's an inconsistency there. And it's an inconsistency that does not benefit me as a taxpayer, because I can't say yes or no to that. So my question is, do you feel that the current way that the fire department is run and the Board of Fire Wards is something that should be a status quo, where they can operate on their own and independently in lieu of the taxpayers? Or would you be willing to at least look into a different means of how the fire department operates with their funding? I hope that was okay.
There's no way I'm going to be able to repeat that, Frank.
And there's no way I'd be able to repeat it either.
Okay, bottom line. Every department that is funded by the taxpayers deserves to have the taxpayers see how things are done, how the financing is managed, and everything that goes with it, period.
As I understand it now, the fire department is a separate department separate from the rest of the town. It's like having a mini Board of Selectmen, but they have a different name. I think the only way to really change that, because it was brought to this through a warrant article back in '78, and then some tweaking was done, I think, in the '90s. The only way to change that is through a warrant article in the future. I don't believe that the Board of Selectmen have the authority to change that. I also am concerned, if we're talking about transparency, that both the Board of Selectmen meeting and the Fire Wards meeting are at the same day and the same time. So there's no way for transparency to be on the one that at least isn't on cable. So it is. I am concerned for the citizens in town, again, because I think there's a problem with transparency, but I don't think that the Board of Selectmen has the authority to change that.
In answer to your question, The Board of Fire Wards is its own separate entity. It's passed by the, as my colleague here to the left said, that by town warrant article back in 1978. The only way to do that statutorily is that their own separate board, and they have control over their budget and their funds. It's similar to what the trustees of the library do. They get a certain amount of money, and they can spend that money out of the budget as they see fit. We can't interfere with them or tell them yay or nay. I understand that your question about the transparency, but you have to go before the board, and you can voice your opinion at the Board of Fire Wards in their meetings. The Board of Selectmen, and we just went through this again with the town attorney, is we don't have any say over that particular department. That has to come strictly through the Board of Fire Wards. All we have is the money that it's allocated through the town by the town vote and the budget, and they get that, and pretty much they can do what they want with it.
Would anybody else like to ask any questions?
Can we have seconds?
Sure.
This is not as big in the order of the universe, but it's about this building, which I know you're running on a shoestring and have had 16 default budgets since 1997. But the light maintenance that goes on in most buildings is not being done here. My feet actually stuck to the floor when I was doing exercises here. My question is if you would commit to more routine maintenance of the floors, windows, stocking the paper goods, etc.
There's no question about the fact that a certain amount of maintenance is required for every building in this town. The big question is the cost to the taxpayers. Now, I'm of a position that for every expenditure raised, there should be an equal depletion of another expenditure. So, if the people want to spend more money maintaining the town's buildings, that's all well and good. But since I've been in this town, the inflation rate has absolutely exceeded the national average, and it's becoming increasingly unaffordable for me to live here. I'm looking to be on the Board of Selectmen to reverse that to some degree, as much as can be done.
I think perhaps we're talking about some oversight here, Chris, because if you use this hall, then your job is to clean up after yourself. And I know the many times we've used it jointly. We've swept the floor, mopped the floor, vacuumed, put things back. Maybe we need to find a way that after the hall is used, that indeed people have to follow through with what their responsibility is. Or maybe we have to have a deposit put down, as many other nonprofit institutions do, and you don't get your deposit back if you don't clean up after yourself. I think it could be a discussion that's held at the board level. I don't think a single board member can make a commitment to that.
I agree that our town buildings, especially this historic building, needs work. And right now, the Board of Selectmen's in the process of that. We have a contract out for the repair of the bell tower and some of the other work done here on the building, and that'll be started come springtime. Obviously, at this time, it's kind of hard. They're doing the exterior maintenance so we can get this building back into some type of shape. But as Helene said, you know, part of the deal of renting this place is to turn around and make sure that it's cleaned afterwards. And I guess we've got to do a better job of following through on that, and that comes back to us also as the board members.
Hello, Clarence Gardner from John Connor Road. Since we're talking about building maintenance, there's a warrant article to replace the roof of the police/fire station. And I've never built a house, but it's my understanding that that roof didn't last anywhere near as long as it should. How would you be sure that the next roof is done right?
Engage a qualified roofing company.
I would have to agree that we engage a roofing company that stands by its warranty. And we make sure that that's written into the agreement and the guarantee.
I understand that the roof is only about 15 years old. And roofs, everybody will sell you 30-year shingles or a 50-year shingle. Well, that doesn't mean that if it gives up in 15 or 20 years that you're going to get all your money back. They prorate it. And the contractor isn't the one that's going to do the warranty. It's going to be the manufacturer. Obviously, that building was put out to bid. The contractor did that and probably put the cheapest shingles that he could get away with to save his profit margin. There's issues with the roof and venting when we went and looked at that. We're trying to make sure that we hire a licensed, expert roofer for the best bid we can get to put a roof on that building. And the part that's being asked for in the warrant, $60,000, is about the cheapest one in there. Not the cheapest, but it's in the average medium. It's not the most expensive, it's not the cheapest, it's kind of middle of the road until we get some more formal bids come if it passes. Because then we can nail it down and they can give us better prices. But to make sure that they do it right, they put a roof vent in it and make sure the venting's done right so those shingles don't deteriorate like they did.
Anybody else have any questions?
I'd like to address one more issue on that roof.
Sir, why don't we wait till your closing remarks? Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Dina Venturi, 16 Rockland. Just a question, if the board would ever consider doing a study on, you're talking about pay raises on different departments in different towns of comparable sizes, town workers, library workers, all the different departments, like a comparing.
What's the question?
If you would do a study on comparing the pay of all the different departments, since there seems to be a very low to, what people are getting paid in the town, all the departments, be it, town offices, fire, library.
That's not an unreasonable suggestion. A study can and should be done with due diligence.
The local government center used to have those studies. I understand that they've stopped that because they didn't get enough participation. We would have to look into finding the equation that would work. But there needs to be we need to look at the whole picture, not just a piece of the picture.
Yeah, I agree, because when we did some of these, when the board did some of these, I did an informal check of different towns and different highway departments, police departments, fire departments, other town employees. And just an example, for instance, a highway maintainer for the state of New Hampshire starts around $14 an hour. Drive a truck, drive a $100,000 piece of equipment. I don't know if I want to trust somebody driving that piece of equipment. We were paying about 15 to 16, so we're a little bit higher. We actually had employees from the state come to work for us for more money. At one point, the town of Dunbarton, I'm not sure what their average is, but starting was over $19 an hour. For basically, and not to disparage the town of Dunbarton, they do a great job, but like a one-cow town. I mean, they're a very small town. New Boston started out at over $18 an hour. And, you know, but to put that into perspective, we got a quality person that worked for New Boston who's from Weare, and he came back here because he wanted to be in this town. So that says something. And, you know, even though we're not there, we get these quality people, and at times, I think that, you know, not to give them some type of fair shake is not right. You know, including all the people at the library, the town offices. We've got some people that are doing double duty, doing two-persons jobs, and you know, haven't seen any raises. And I think that's wrong, and that's the biggest thing, I think, for us to keep this, instead, like I said, instead of being a training town, as it's referred to, that they come here, learn their job, and say, I can go someplace else and get more money, and they up and leave. And I think that's a disservice to them. It's a disservice to the town that we have to start at ground zero and invest more money to train that person to come up to the job, no matter what it is.
Thank you.
Jeff Anderson, Gordon Lane. First, thank you for running. You know, appreciate people who volunteer their time. Second thing, I heard two of you guys talk earlier about wanting to be involved in the negotiation as far as hiring the next police chief. And it seems, I've been in Weare since 1994, and it seems like during that whole time, we've had periods of time where we're in the news because of the police. Like, we've had our ups and we've had our downs. And while it's fun to be on a roller coaster like that, it's not so much fun when we're on the downs with the police department. We're on an up right now, so thank you, Chief. But besides like, you know, being involved with the next hire, how, if you are the next selectman, how are the selectmen going to work on staying level set at that high versus going down and hitting the lows again? So, again, thank you for your time.
I'm given to understand that we have some good people currently serving in the police department. I would encourage promotion from within before even looking at another police chief from someplace else.
We have MRI who's looking to whittle down whoever is applying for the job. Another thing that I think when we hire, we need to make sure that all the background checks and everything checks out. And quite frankly, I'd want to go to communities where that police chief has served before. Speak to the residents in those towns, speak to the shop owners in those towns. The other thing is that as a board member, we need to stay involved with going and speaking and going on a ride with police officers. I did that when I was selectman before. That you keep your pulse on what's going on there, as well as they keep the pulse on what's going on in the community.
It's very important that we vet a proper police chief, definitely. It doesn't mean we're going to get a chief from another town. We could get a captain, we could get a lieutenant, they could come from, these other locales. Could be another chief that from a small, as I said before, one cow town, he wants to come up to a town that's got a little better area. The company that's doing it, we've contracted, is MRI, Municipal Resources Incorporated. They've got experienced people. They're doing this. They do a complete, thorough background. We've had some, and like I said, I've been in law enforcement probably over 30 years. I was 26 years as a trooper, and part of my patrol was this, and back when there was no full-time police department, and it was about 2,000 people, 1,800, 2,000 people in this town. They had all part-time people. And this town has grown. And has the town had mistakes, like you said, up and down on a roller coaster? Yes. Have we hired some not-so-good people? Yes. Or made bad choices? Yes. No question about it. I mean, you can, for a while, you pick up the paper and we'd be on the front page, Weare strikes again. You know, we had a reputation of being one of the worst police departments in the state, and that came from a person I know at the Attorney General's office. We don't want that reputation, and this man here, in his tenure here, has done a great job, and he's made sure that we've vetted quality people, and we've got some great people on our police department, and we want to keep it that way. And he's done that, and we're very, very attuned to the fact that we are hiring quality people, and Chief Kelly has done that for us, and he comes constantly and tells us, I've got this one or that one, now this guy's not going to make it, or this guy's not the right person for us. But I've got these people that are going to be great for us, and the ones that he's brought forward to us have been great people. And I can't speak more, any more about that, or say any more about that than what I've said. We've done a great job, and this man has done a great job for us. And I want to make sure that we continue that. And if we don't pay attention to who we hire as the next leader of that department, you know, we could have problems again. Hire within, it's a good idea, but I don't know at this point whether anybody down there is going to step up to that, but you just can't take somebody out of the mix and say, oh, you're going to be the chief. Those days are gone. With all the stuff that goes on nowadays, you just can't do that, not unless you want to look for more trouble.
Hi, Karen Brome, Poor Farm Road. And I wanted to ask if you could each state what your feeling is of the value of the public lands and town forests.
I have not looked at the assessment for the public lands, so I can't answer that myself.
We're very fortunate in Weare to have a lot of conservation land. It's open to the public. I'd like to see more walking trails and things like that, which may require a real concerted volunteer effort, the way a number of other communities have done that. I know in Concord, they've been highly successful, and it's been all volunteer to do that. I think it's a tax benefit to us, it's an environmental benefit to us, and I do support it.
I have to agree with that. I think our conservation land is an important part of this town, as any town. Nobody's making land anymore, and I don't want to see it all turned up and end up with high-rises or turn to the point where we don't have any open space land, conservation land, places you can go enjoy. The thing I'd like to see more of, and I know this has been brought forth since I started on the board and even before, is to get, you know, some more work done to some of these town forests so we have walking trails. The Conservation Commission has done a good job, and they've done a lot of work in some of these plots, and I'd like to see more and have some more trails put up. The towns like Helene said, Concord, New Boston has a very extensive trail system that they've put in their town forests, and I'd like to see that keep going forward here.
Clarence Gardner again, John Connor Road. On the subject of hiring a police chief, could you list your top 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever criteria that you would look for in a candidate?
Well, the criteria would be honesty, integrity, experience, dependability, loyalty, trustworthy, kindness, obedience, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent.
Ditto. I would also say, in addition to that, understanding our town.
I thought I was at the Boy Scout meeting. I have to be at, which is where I'm supposed to be tonight, but I guess it followed me here. The biggest thing, we're going to look for a police chief, and one of the biggest things I want is, as they say in the military and other places, I don't want a guy that's retired on active duty. I don't want a guy that's going to come here, sit in his office, and collect a salary. Not in this town. That happens a lot of places, and I don't want to see that be one of the criteria for the town of Weare. I want to see somebody and make sure that when we get him, he's going to be a working, active chief. He's going to be seen. He's going to be out, in the public eye, meeting people. If he has to fill a shift. Chief Kelly did that. He was restricted by hours and still had to try and do all the administrative stuff and follow around. I want to see somebody, because he's going to get, he's going to be here for the full 40 hours a week, that he's going to be out here so people see him. They know who he is, that he's well educated and versed in what's required and has the training to do that. And that's a very big thing, to have the right person with the right management training, because the culture in a police department or agency is a lot different from the highway department or anything else. You just don't hire somebody right off the street corner to come in and be a police chief. I can tell you the days of getting sworn in and raising your right hand and here's your badge, here's your gun, kid, here's the keys to the cruiser, have at it. Those days are gone, and somebody's laughing, but when I started in 1973 as a police officer, 72 as a police officer, that's about what happened. 1987, yeah, I mean, I was sworn in a community on the seacoast, and we think we got some uniforms that'll fit you, and here's a gun that was, I think I'd be better off to throw it at somebody than shoot it, because it wasn't that great, and here's a badge, here's a couple bucks to go, here's $100 that you get as a uniform allowance to go down and buy some extra uniforms or whatever. And that was it. And the only fortunate thing I had, I grew up in that town, so it was basically, I knew where I was going, but still, I didn't have any real training. What was the law of arrest? I don't know. Put the cuffs on somebody, drag them off. I don't know if it was legal or not. They sent me to training classes, but we can't afford to do that unless you want to see Weare in the front page of the Union Leader or the Boston Globe or the Concord Monitor. We don't need that. So we have to make sure we get the right person, and he's going to be a people person and out there interacting with us, the citizens, every day, or that he has, as much as Chief Kelly did, if not more, an open door policy that, if somebody has a complaint, they can go see him. And that's the big thing in a small town like this. We're not that small, but we're still small enough that we should be able to do that. And like I said, Chief Kelly has brought this forward enough that I think we're at a good place, and he's leaving us in a great place, and I hope we find somebody as good as he is.
Yeah, John Lawton, Oak Hill Road. My question goes back to development of a default budget. We've had some inconsistent explanation as to how that's done. I think pretty much everybody up there probably knows how it's supposed to be done. This year at the deliberative session for the town, we were told by the lawyer that it's a law that you have to have last year's line brought across. I question that because at the school deliberative session, that was not the case, and I believe the law pertains to both entities. So my question is, and the word transparency has been brought up a lot tonight, it appears to me that it's not very transparent when you develop a default budget that is so close to the proposed budget. over the last few years, we've seen those budgets become closer and closer. It becomes, to me, and to I think a lot of people who understand the budget process, it becomes a little suspicious, I guess would be the word. As an example, this year there was a line item in for insurances that actually the proposed budget for the coming year had been reduced by $80,000, but the default budget still held that $80,000, brought it across. The question was asked as to why that was, and they were told that do you have to do that? I'm not sure that's really the case. I think that's up to the discretion of the people making the budget if they do that or not. It's legal to do it. I'm not arguing that point. But I think it's up to the discretion of the selectmen. So my question is, as a selectman, would you be more prone to be more transparent with these figures when you develop a default budget than is currently being done?
You've just stated one of my major concerns. I rest your case. I rest my case.
I think one of the concerns in the past for the selectmen is the fear that a proposed budget doesn't get passed. So you put extra money into, that's legally done, into the default budget. What I think can happen is if we're really transparent and really straightforward and bring the default budget down to not only what's illegal, but what is right, and explain the proposed budget in the same way, that we were much more likely to get a proposed budget passed. If we had a truly lean default budget, and the default budget is what we ended up with, perhaps we would have to see some things not getting done that we want done. In which case, again, the citizens have the last word on that, don't they? Might it be painful? I think it could be. And I spoke to this at the deliberative session. I think that the proposed budget needs to be explained in greater detail so people understand. So that if you've put things in, as I spoke earlier, you put in raises in the proposed budget, that people know that you've really done that. And that should come from the Board of Selectmen. That shouldn't come from that shouldn't be brought forward from the floor. It can come from the Board of Selectmen. So again, it's 3 votes that decide on what goes on. But I think it would be well advised that the default budget be as lean as it can be.
In question about the budget, the default budget, there wasn't any money added to the default budget. That's what was passed for the previous year. We had a lean year. We had a proposed budget that passed, but part of that was a motion from the floor that took $180,000 out of it. We had to start making cuts, and the department heads made the cuts, and the 3 biggest departments made cuts to get so they could operate by not hiring people, holding 6 months off to hire people that were needed, or buying something that was needed in that 6-month period. In the default budget that's there, yes, that's what passed last year, and that money is sitting there. When we wrote the budget this year, yes, it cut because the price of the insurance went down. So you want us to go to the default budget and cut it. You know, there's a case pending in the Supreme Court right now for this town on the budget. We were embroiled in a Supreme Court hearing. The legislature has passed a new statute, and we can't do that. They've clarified that we can't do the same thing. We can't go back and start making cuts in the default budget, you know, where we want. So we have to go with what we've got, and we have to wait till this decision comes forth, and then we'll know when the 9 wise men up in Concord past that, and then we'll find out what happens at the end of that. But at this point, there's no padding anything, there's no hiding anything. That's all out in the open, and that was explained. And it wasn't 3 people, there's 5 people on the board. So the 5 of us went over that budget very thoroughly, and that's what came forth. And the Finance Committee looked at it also. So I don't think we were hiding anything or trying to pad anything or trying to put anything by anybody.
1 second, please. We've been at it for a little over an hour now. I'm told that in the past we've gone about an hour. We have a gentleman waiting to ask a question. Unless there's something pressing after him, can I move to closing remarks? Okay, sir, please.
David Erickson, Poor Farm Road. Question for the moderator. I think if I was one of the candidates, I wouldn't want to go first every time. In fairness, maybe the last time you'd want to switch it. I'm thinking about the deliberative session, and no matter how good a job the select people do to explain the warrant articles, if there's only 100 people there, it's a very small percentage of the voters. Do you have a solution for that? Should we change SB 3 in town? I know the selectmen don't have the power to do that, but do you have any solutions to try to educate the town or change our system so that we really do all get informed?
Rock, paper, scissors.
He wants to go.
Well, currently the only newspaper in town comes out of the library. So that and the cable system are the only avenues that we have for getting this information out to the people. Personally, I'm not on the cable, so I depend on the library and talking to people around as much as I can and so forth and so on.
You could go on YouTube. Things are often on YouTube, too. So you can add that. If we go, I was certainly not in favor of the SB2 town when it came forward in the 90s. But I remind myself that when we had regular town meeting, we had less than 100 people. And so now we have about the same number of people. So we're in the same bind, in a sense, that we've always been in. Finding other ways to try to communicate would be wise. I'm thankful for the library, that the library does put out a paper. The library does have coffee hours that try to educate people. Anyone in the community that has other ideas that will help with communications, I'm sure that the board, no matter who sits on it, would like to hear about it and see whether we could make better things happen.
Yeah, I know. I grew up most of my adult life until I came to Weare in a public meetings, had your town meetings in a public forum. You voted and then you went to town meeting and passed all the other articles. And sometimes you'd have a few people, sometimes the place would be packed. And in some places, I know that changed it, some of it almost turned into Donnybrooks. But, I think there's advantages to both. I think the thing sometimes to vet these issues ahead of time and then get to vote on everything, and everybody can do the research, you get the mailer, and go back and then vote on each individual item, sometimes is a better advantage. Trying to get more people out, yeah, it's sad. The Board of Selectmen and the town administrator, thank her for that, and the Public Works Director put on a forum before we, did the road bond and have people come. We got a very poor turnout. And that's a big dollar item, and we were kind of disappointed about it. But a lot of the people that did came found it very informative. You know, again, when we go to the deliberative session, look at the crowd, and it's not much more than what we have here. And you know, I think, as they say at times, when it comes to political things, people get apathetic, and I think that's what happens. And it's a lot of time out of their schedule. But I think we have ways to communicate. Mr. Sullivan at the library does a great job with that little news flyer he puts out. We have the town website. So there's information there. Or, you know, sometimes you can always stop down at the town office and get information. But yeah, there's got to be more ways to get the people out, and sometimes it's a tough thing.
Okay, I'm guessing that the current sitting chairman of the Board of Selectmen isn't standing here in the back of the room for his good look, so... I'd
just like to ask a question if it's okay with forum.
Last question. Thank you.
Frank has his privileges. Ricky Hippler, Quaker Street. Again, I commend all of you for running. I'm not running again. This is my last term. Just a question. Representing the town is obviously the #1 priority of the selectmen. Number 2 to me would be representing the employees and the workers that we have. My question is when was the last time that outside of the town office that the 3 of you have interacted with the department heads, DPW, fire, police, library, and transfer station? Thank you.
Well, whenever I get to the transfer station, the police station, the library, town hall, and so forth and so on, I talk, I ask, and I learn.
Last week.
Let's see, last week would have been hard unless I was long distance from Florida. But before I went to Florida, I was at the transfer station, talked to the employees there. I bumped into the Public Works Director several times. And over the past few days, recently I've spoken to him. The police chief, well, like I said, I've been in Florida, so today's the first day I've seen him since I've been back. The fire chief, I've seen him twice in just the past couple days. So I try to, you know, see them periodically or stop in to see them, and I think that's a very important thing, to go and sit and talk to them, see how they're doing, see if they have any questions, concerns, or other things.
Okay, how we're going to close this is we're going to ask each of the candidates to speak for a few minutes. Like your opening remarks, let's try and keep them to about 5 minutes, okay? And then we'll call it a night. Thank you all very much for coming, and I appreciate all of your questions.
With regards to replacing the roof on the police station, so far as I know, there has not been any research done on putting a metal roof on. Now, I live off of Colby Road, but I know the house down on the corner of Colby and River put a metal roof on a few years back. Metal roofs hold up substantially better than the shingle roofs under any weather condition, as from what I'm told. I'm looking at doing that myself at some juncture in time, assuming that I can still afford to live here.
Before I really say my closing remarks, I do want to make a comment. You said I could at this time. One is that you compared the Board of Fire Wards to the library trustees. And the library trustees, and the librarian in particular, plays by the same rules that the town plays by. There's a warrant article for increasing hours. Yes, it could have been done within his budget, or he could have maneuvered his budget. He could give himself a raise within his budget. It would be legal. But he doesn't play that game. He plays by the rules that the rest of us live by. So I don't want you to think that, and I don't know how the fire wards are going to end up working out all their internal finances, but to compare the workings of how the fire department handled their raises and the library trustees and the librarian did theirs, I think is not fair. It's not right. It's not accurate. The other thing that I want to mention is we can talk about all the things that we want, and indeed many of the things that we need, but we always need to be cognizant of what we can really afford. And that balance is the job of the selectmen. Sometimes you're going to like it, sometimes you're not. It really comes down to that. But without your input, and I think that's where my strength is that I'm a good listener. I don't make up my mind in stone before I've heard all the different sides. I do my homework. I'm willing to engage with people who disagree with me. I learn from them. I'm active. I engage with different departments in town when I wasn't a selectman. And I think that my personality and my ability to interact with people will play well for the town. I also have the background. I've lived in the town for 50 years, so I've watched the town grow up. I've seen our pains and I've seen our good times. I expect what I can do is bring more good times, bring our community closer together, both in the walls of the town offices and the larger community. And I think that you will be well served if you support me.
In closing, like I said, my record will speak for itself. Since I've been here in this position, this is my third year, I've been involved in the hiring of very quality people. One of them is the Public Works Director. I don't think we could have done any better than what we've got. He's done a fantastic job. He's worked in this town. He knows the people. He's got a vested interest in every way you can think, and he's done a great job. And I think that was one of the best things the board did, was to hire him. And I'm proud to be one of the ones that sat on the board to do that. And I want to continue to do that as far as when it comes to hiring the next police chief. That's a very, very big, important thing, and it's a very big item in this town to keep forward. You know, it's been brought up about transparency, and we've taken hits. The present board's taken hits about transparency, and I'll tell you, we're very transparent. You can go to that town office any day of the week, go up to the finance administrator, go to the town administrator, and ask for copies of anything, and they'll bend over backwards to give it to you. You want a copy of the budget? You want a copy of what we're proposing? Yes, you can get that, and that's a very if that's not being transparent, I don't know what is, because we don't require, like a lot of towns, to have you fill out a right to know and pay for every piece of paper that they photocopy for you, which we could, but we don't. So, I mean, there's nothing hidden there. We give you everything. As far as what the fire department does, that's up to the Board of Fire Wards and what they do. They do have things on the warrant article for hiring people, and for other equipment and so forth that you will have the opportunity to vote on. So it's up to the voters at that point, not up to us or anybody else. And I'd like to have another term to serve you people and continue to have your support, and I would appreciate it very much, and thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you coming.